We've got the NFL draft coming up. And for you, you are a fantasy football connoisseur. What are you most looking forward to this week?
For me, like all this pre-stuff, this is all Todd and Mel. This is like whatever. I can sit here and, well, if this guy goes here, but it doesn't matter. Because fantasy value, which is what I care about, fantasy football value, Julie, comes from two things, and two things only, really. It comes from talent. Okay, and so we can talk about the talent, and we've been talking about it since the college football season ended. But really, it's also about opportunity. Until we know where these players play and what coaches they're playing for, what schemes they're going to be in, what competition there is for playing time, we don't really have a sense of what their fantasy value is. The best example I give is I remember Derrick Henry coming out of Alabama. And I, like everyone, I was just like, okay, that's a full-grown man. I don't know how that guy and me have the same DNA, but somehow we do, because that's a man. And I was just like, I can't wait to draft that guy in fantasy. That guy's going to be awesome. And then he gets drafted by the Tennessee Titans, who had just in the offseason signed DeMarco Murray to a huge deal. And you're like, well, there goes that. And it wasn't until DeMarco Murray left the team and even Dion Lewis left the team and they had a change in offensive philosophy that Derrick Henry finally got the ball and became the fantasy superstar he is right now. So the talent was always there, but he just didn't have the opportunity for a couple of years. Aaron Rodgers, right? We loved him coming out of college, but he gets drafted and now he's got to sit behind Brett Favre. So it's talent plus opportunity. We won't know the opportunity until Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night of this week.
Okay, so it's very precarious, but living in this world that we do now with social media, people, I assume, expect you to tell them the value of that player when they are drafted, when it happens. What does the preparation look like? Have you gone through like situations? It's almost like Tetris math going by, figuring it all out before time? Yeah,
so it's a twofold process. Number one is understanding the prospects, okay? So what kind of player is this? What kind of receiver is this? How will this quarterback, how will this running back, how will this tight end translate to the NFL game? So those thoughts, right? And then you also have to study, which we do all the time. You're studying teams, philosophies, offenses, what they've done in the offseason so far, right? And so, like, just an example off the top of the head, right? So, like, you think about Arthur Smith, who's now the head coach in Atlanta, was the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. A lot of Titan talk so far on this podcast.
Titan show already.
Show, weirdly. But, all right, so Arthur Smith really likes, whether, we saw it last year. We saw it with Jonnu Smith and Anthony Ferkser and, Michael Pruitt and like all the tight ends that Tennessee used over the last couple of years in their set. So if Kyle Pitts gets drafted to Atlanta, that becomes very interesting. Now, Kyle Pitts is going to be interesting wherever he lands. But the idea is knowing like, okay, here's a coach that uses the tight end as a big part of his offensive system. He likes to do a lot of play action. And so studying every team, what their coaches and offensive schemes that they like to run, and then how that player might fit into that. So that it's a little bit of like you're looking on this side about teams, schemes, coaches, etc., and you're looking at this player on talent. And then, yes, as soon as they get drafted, as soon as they're married, then you're like, okay, here's what we think this means.